Hi, I'm Debbie and welcome to Book and BuJo, where I talk about all things books, bullet journals, and stationery. Today is my mid-month check-in for June. What have I been doing so far in June and how's my reading going? So as you have probably seen already, I did finally get to my April wrap-up and I am working on getting my May reviews done and up on Goodreads before I film my May wrap-up. But we're getting there, getting caught up a little bit, which is good. I am still working on filling out some of my reading journal, making sure I have everything ready for my Readathon wrap-up. And I am happy to say I did pass all of my Readathons, which is great. And yesterday it was super fun. So my cousin and her fiance and her daughter and my husband and I went to the first annual Kegger, which is kind of a pub crawl here in Prescott. And we could either be part of the gold team or the black team. Of course, we picked the black team, so that is for the Kegger. And it was super fun. So basically you have a certain amount of clues. We had 7, so we had to go to 7 different locations downtown Prescott and get a stamp and find the hidden pony keg somewhere in the bar. And along the way there were 9 mystery locations. So luckily my husband and I both graduated from high school here, so we kind of knew the answers to quite a few of them already, which was super helpful. Especially since all of the people we were with were fairly new, have only been in Prescott for a couple years. And along the way we picked up we call him now an adopted family member. Someone just happened to be coming along around the same time as we were, and he was there by himself, and so we were like, well, join the crew. And so it was super fun that we got to bring in a newcomer to Prescott as well as to our group, and we got to go to all the different locations with them, and then we ended up having dinner, and it was just a lot of fun. It was a really fun night. A lot of the places we have been to before, or at least we know of them. So if you've been anywhere near Prescott, you know Matt's in the Palace, Jersey Lily's, you probably know Coyote Joe's, Lizard's Lounge. So these are a lot of places most of us are familiar with if you've lived here any time. But we got to go into some places that were somewhat new. So Coyote Joe's actually burned down quite a few years ago. I want to say 10-15 years ago, somewhere right in there. Don't quote me on that though. And there's a new bar there now, which was super fun. It's 1881 Spirits, so that one was fun. That was a new one for us. Also the Whiskey River Tavern was a new one for us, which was super fun. And The Point, which is definitely neat. That one had kind of more of like a jazzy vibe, bluesy vibe to it. And yeah, that one was totally new. I've never been in that building before, so that was very interesting. It's nice to find some new locations here in Prescott that would be fun to go to. And then some of the mystery questions, a bar that burned down. Of course, that was Coyote Joe's, but the Birdcage has burned down, the Palace has burned down, but those all came back as the same building. Also, the oldest brothel in town was the Palace. So some interesting trivia along the way. And of course, the famous Rough Rider was Bucky O'Neill. There's a lot of things in the Prescott area named after Bucky, as well as the Rough Riders from way back when in Western times. And then we got to stop by and have dinner at an old favorite. So when my husband and I lived here way back when, we used to go to the office all the time and had kind of totally forgotten about it. And then we went last night for dinner after the Kegger. So it was just a lot of fun. It was a great little weekend trip with family and some new friends. Well, and I wanted to take video and pictures, but all of the bars were so dark. Like there was nothing. So I pretty much got nothing. I could have done a little bit more on the street, but there were so many people around and it was just getting jostled here and there, and I was just engaged more in conversation and being present with family. So no video, sorry, but it was a lot of fun. So what have I been reading so far? One book that I did start early for the Breath of the Wildathon, and that is Magefall by David Estes. This is the 3rd book in the Kingfall History series, and I just finished it today. So good. I am just continuing to love this series and seeing how all of the POVs are starting to come together, and it's pretty cool. So you do start out with, I mean, there's like 10 different main characters, but each book you get to see interactions between all of them and how all of these storylines are going to come together, and so much fun. Yes, I am thoroughly enjoying this series, Kingfall Histories. I love it. So what did I start next? As a physical and audiobook, I read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, and this is Creative Living Beyond Fear, and it's fairly short. It's pretty quick and easy read. It's like a 5-hour audiobook, but it was really interesting. I could see if you are someone that has been fairly confident, had an amazing support system growing up, that you may not get anything out of this book. But if you're someone who's kind of lived in fear, you're afraid of failing, and you're a perfectionist, you don't like trying new things, you may get some really good tips and tidbits out of this book. And it's part of her story. She basically says, hey, I am writing this book for me. If you happen to get anything out of this, great. If you don't, that is absolutely fine too. And I definitely got some good stuff out of this one. Elizabeth Gilbert is also the author of Eat, Pray, Love, which most people probably have heard of or seen the movie with Julia Roberts. I have seen the movie, didn't realize that this was this author, so that's kind of fun. It's the only thing I've read of hers so far, and I'm intrigued to see what else she has out there, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was well written. It's very easy to read. There's nothing complicated or complex about it. Great tips, great tidbits, good inspiration. Next up, I read How I Became the Fittest Woman on Earth by Tia Claire Toomey, and this is her story from when she was growing up as a kid all the way up until she won her first CrossFit Games in 2017. And spoiler, she is now a 6-time winner of CrossFit. She did win 6 years in a row, and then she took last year off and had a baby, and she is back again this year competing in the 2024 CrossFit Games that come the first week of August. And she has a really inspirational story. I think it was really interesting. I got some really good quotes from the book. So Tia Claire Toomey grew up with an amazing support system in her family. Like, all of the people surrounding her were there for her, and I thought that was so amazing. And she just has such a drive and a competitive spirit in a good way, mainly competing against herself. She's like, well, if I did this run in 7 minutes, I should be able to do it in 6.5 next time, and I should be able to do it in 6 minutes after that, and then 5:45, and then, so she's really competitive against herself. She wants to do better than she did before, not necessarily making sure she like squashes the competition around her. That's not the way she was thinking, at least according to the book. And I love that herself and the people around her don't let self-doubt get them down. They take whatever the failure was that might have happened, like maybe she came in second, maybe she came in fourth, or whatever the case may be. Okay, so now let's get back out there. How can I improve next time? How can I do better? How can I get fitter? What can I do to improve upon what I just did? Which I think is amazing. One of the quotes in the book that I really enjoyed, she had asked her dad, like, I don't know if I gave it my all, like, do you think I did enough? And her dad said, if you can lay here knowing you gave it absolutely everything you had to give today, then you did enough. But if there is something you think you could have done better, then you know you need to work harder. And another quote that I like is, the strength of the mind beats the strength of the body every time. You can always outwork the strongest one in the room if their mind is weaker than yours. And I think that is so true. I think most winners, for the most part, they win mentally over physically. So they may not be the strongest one in the room, but they believe in themselves and they put in the work to get it done. That doesn't mean the person with the strongest mind always wins, because sometimes someone who's super strong or fast or whatever the case may be able to get in there and beat you. But if you have a strong mind, then you're not going to let that get you down, and you're going to do what you can to improve your results next time. And there was a lot of building habits in the book, which I like as well. She also says, I don't view changes as sacrifices. I see them as adjustments that need to happen in order to achieve a bigger picture. and I loved that quote. It was really short and easy read, and I just thought it was quite motivational, and I loved hearing a little bit more about her story because I think she is just a very nice human being. And I did see she has another book out that has come out later since she's won some of the other games, and I am interested in picking that one up as well. Next up, I read Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare, and this is the first book in the Chronicles of Castellane series, and I thought it was really interesting. There's a lot of familiar type of storylines. I feel like some of the tropes are fairly familiar. So we have the crown prince, and you have the sword catcher, who is a young boy who is taken away from the orphanage that he grew up in, and he is now become the bodyguard and best friend of the prince. So his job is to keep the prince safe. If there's a hint of an assassination attempt that is being planned for an upcoming event, the sword catcher will step in and pretend to be the prince for that event to keep the prince safe. And we have a full cast of characters in here. I think there are some really good twists and turns throughout. Overall, I mean, it's a pretty chunky book, but it didn't feel like it was super long. I thought it read really easily and quickly. I don't feel like I was super bored at any point or that the pacing was too slow. I thought it's pretty medium pace overall. It's not super slow, but it's not quick and fast and action-packed. But the characters are really interesting, and I definitely want to see what's going to happen in the second book. The Rag Picker King is another interesting character. Almost, I want to say, somewhat of a Robin Hood type character, but also somewhat of a mob boss type character. So, some kind of combination of those is kind of what I get from it. You have a race of people that are pretty much looked down upon. They live in their own little area, and they are viewed as less than everybody else, so we get a point of view from someone from that race. And I like the interactions between all of the different characters. I think the world building and the atmosphere of the book is done really well, and I definitely enjoy all of the characters. It's a YA book, but it does have complexity to it as well. I enjoyed it. I give it 4.5 stars. Yes, this one I did give 4 stars to. Magefall, I have not rated it yet, but I'm pretty sure it's going to get 5 stars because all of the characters are amazing. The world building is superb. The atmosphere is awesome, and the plot and the story are really starting to move along and come together at this point. And I love all the backstory we're getting on some of the characters as well. Yes, 5 stars. Next, I read The Stones of Earth and Air, and this is the first book in the Elemental World series, and this is by V.M. Seng. I would say this book would be categorized upper middle grade, lower YA. I'm not quite sure what it says on Goodreads, probably a YA, but I think it's more of an older middle grade, like Percy Jackson would be like an older middle grade, younger YA, so in that age range. And we have, again, you have a prince and he needs to have a buddy, and this is the buddy of the prince that's kind of there for him and helps him out and is kind of sort of a bodyguard as well. So similar to Swordcatcher, but not quite as complex of a story. The prince's siblings and Petik, his sword catcher, for lack of a better term, have noticed that Prince Torn is not acting quite like himself. So they're thinking, I wonder if through magic they could have somebody that's impersonating him that is made to look like him. And so they investigate this, and they find out that the prince has been taken to kind of like a bubble dimension where it's just kind of him there, and he's imprisoned there. And in order to get there, you have to get a certain gem from the worlds of earth, air, wind, and fire. So this book is the worlds of earth and air. And Petik is having to go to these places, try and find the gem, and time may move differently, it may move the same, you never know. He may be on the land of earth for 6 months, he gets back and finds out only 2 weeks have gone by. or maybe he's goes to one of the other dimensions and he's there for 2 weeks and find out 3 months have gone by. You never know until you get there. Overall, I thought it was a really interesting story. It was definitely more for younger audiences, I think, but I still enjoyed it. The only thing that was a little confusing at first, and I'm not sure quite why they did it this way, but he goes to the earth and air dimensions, but in the middle of the book, they mention the fact that he has already been and gone to the fire dimension. And I'm like, well, why isn't this the book of earth and fire then, and then have air and water together? Like, why did he go to earth and then fire and then air, but we're not hearing any of the story about the fire dimension? So I just thought that was a little weird, but book 2 is the fire and water dimension, which makes sense, but it's still a little weird. Like, why not have that story in here and save the air dimension for later? Or why even mention it? I don't know. I thought that was a little weird. It made my brain go, huh? But it's very interesting. So Petik has to go to all of these different dimensions. So he has a whole new race of people and doesn't know any of their customs, doesn't speak their language, and has to figure out his way through all of this in order to save Prince Connor. And we need to find out if he can save him in time before the imposter may be crowned king. So it's definitely interesting. It's a fun read and it's super short, so it's worth a read. I haven't read it yet, but it'll probably get somewhere between a 3.5 and a 4 star. Those are all the books I have read so far. What do I still have to read? Currently, I am reading The Empress of Salt and Fortune, and that is by Ning Vo, and I'm about 15% of the way through. I'm not a huge fan of talking animal books, so I'm not quite sure why I picked this one. I think I kind of forgot about that, but it's been decent so far. It's not bad, but still not a fan of just talking animals, I guess. Not sure why. Like, I have no problem with like dragons because that's like a magic thing. They talk to you in your head and you talk to them through your thoughts, you know, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Again, I'm only 15% of the way through. I still have quite a ways to go, so we'll see what my thoughts are when I'm done. I also just started The Lost World by Michael Crichton. This is the second book in the Jurassic Park series, and I just realized the back of this says something has survived. It's kind of fun. So far, I am enjoying it. I'm not far through it all. I've read this much, so yeah. I'm on page like 47, I think, 46, somewhere in there. So I have quite a ways to go. But so far, it's pretty fun. I love the Jurassic Park movies and even some of the cheesy ones. But I do like them, and I liked the first book a lot. And I'm interested to see what direction the book takes, because I'm pretty sure it's not the same as the movies, but there's got to be some similarities. So I'm enjoying this one so far, and I forgot the name of the narrator already. I will leave it on the screen, but the narrator is great. I've been enjoying his narration of the story so far. All right, so those are all the books that I have read and I have started. What do I still have to go? Quite a bit, actually. I'm doing pretty good. So out of my 7 books, I've completed 2, and I've started 1 more. So I'm almost halfway done with it. Getting there. For my TBR, I still need to read The Ship of the Dead, which is the 3rd book in the Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard series by Rick Riordan. And for some reason, I was thinking there was 4 books in this series, but I think there's only 3. So I think this will complete the Magnus Chase series. So then I just have the Trials of Apollo to go, and then completing the Percy Jackson universe with the 3 new books that have come out in the last year or 2, which I do own all of them. I have just not gotten to the point where I've read them yet. So I'm looking forward to starting this one. I still need to start The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins, and this one is a big one, but I do have access to the audiobook from my library as well, so that'll be good because the print in here is kind of small and I'm not looking forward to reading it all physically, so it'll be nice to have the audiobook to go with it. I also have Spell Over Troubled Water, which is the 4th book in the Grimoires of a Middle-Aged Witch series by Renee George, and I hopefully will be getting to that soon because I am definitely going to be in the mood for some comedy and some fun stuff. And that book does not disappoint with the humor. And then lastly, to complete my TBR, I will still need to read Iron Flame, and I am still on hold for my library for the audiobook, but this one is actually the print is actually really small in this book as well, so we'll see how that goes. I may try and wait for the audiobook, or I may just start it and then finish it up with the audiobook when I get it. I think I'm like 18 out of 32 in the wait list, so we'll see if I get it in time or not. And then that's it for what I'm gonna need to read for my TBR. I still have all of my book clubs that I need to finish. I did complete Big Magic, which is the BuJo Buddies book club with Joshi Curran, so I did complete that one, and I am not taking part in the Game of Tomes because it would be a reread of The Lord of the Rings, and I've recently read that in the last couple years, so I am not going to reread that one at this time. But I do still need to read The Girl in the Moon. So I still have not found it on audiobook at any of my libraries or anything, but I did find out, so my Kindle is super old, it's from 2019, so it does not have the speech to text option that some of the newer ones do, but I did find out that I could download Alexa on my phone and then bring up the Kindle app for my phone, and Alexa will read to me any of the books on my Kindle. So excited about that one because I listened to the audiobook for The Girl and the Girl on the Mountain. Girl on the Mountain was the second book, and I did that one on audiobook, and the narration is really good. The audiobook narrator did a great job, and I feel like I was immersed in the world a little bit more that way by having it on my ebook and also listening to it, so I'm really hoping to be able to do that again this time. So I was very excited to find that option. That leads me to my readathons, and how am I doing on my readathons so far? For Breath of the Wildathon, I was able to, from previous readathons, I was able to complete my path in any order that I wanted to, so I have completed 2 already, and that is air-related word or in the title, and that was The Stones of Earth and Air, which I just talked about by VM Sang, and so I did get that one completed. And then the other one was to read a book in an entirely new spot, and so you kind of pick some random place in your house or wherever that you don't typically read, and you read from there. And I did read The Picture of Dorian Gray, the graphic novel, and it really does follow the book for the most part from start to finish. Not quite as detailed, of course, in comic form, but you basically get the gist of the story through the graphic novel, which was really cool. So I did complete that one. And we were able to start May 28th, again, from perks from previous readathons that I completed for Breath of the Wildathon. And so I was able to start that one May 28th, so that was actually one of my May books, and I did complete that one. For Orange or Red on the cover, the edition I got from my library doesn't have Orange or Red on the cover for the physical book, but the audiobook cover from my library does. So I'm going to take it. It has to have Orange or Red on the cover. And actually, no, this one does. It has a yellowy orange. So it's more of a yellow than an orange, but still a yellow orange. I'm going to take it, and that's The Wisdom of Crowds by Joe Abercrombie, and this is the 3rd book in the Age of Madness series, and I am so looking forward to this one. And again, I mean, it's kind of yellow, but it's kind of orange. So yeah, I'm totally taking it. As well as Crossroads of Twilight by Robert Jordan, and this is the 10th book in the Wheel of Time series, and that is for a three-word title, so Crossroads of Twilight. Oh, I did complete another one. Totally forgot about it because I just completed it today, so I haven't marked it off yet. And that is to read a dark book, and that is Magefall, the 3rd book in the Kingfall Histories by David Estes. And of course, the cover is dark. We have some pretty dark characters. We have dark blades. We have light blades. So that, I mean, there's definitely some dark in this book. So the last book that I need to read for Breath of the Wildathon to complete the main path, and that is to read a book with dragons, which of course I've already read. I guess just one book with dragons so far, but I have a few more coming. But I picked Unbound by Michael R. Miller, the 2nd book in the Songs of Chaos series, and very excited to get this one started. And then the other bonus read that I need to do is to read the highest rated book on my TBR, which technically is The Wisdom of Crowds, but since I already had that book on there, I'm going with my second highest rated book, and that's The Ship of the Dead by Rick Riordan. And then for the Library of Dragons, we have, of course, all the books I just mentioned, as well as I finished The Atlas Paradox for one of the prompts, and that was to create a school in my realm. And I've also created a magical library or museum in my realm by reading Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. And I do have an area of my realm where I have no temples or ruins, and that is because I read A Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. I have also created a cafe or tavern in my realm. And for that, I read Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry, and this was so cute. Definitely cozy mystery. Such fun vibes. I loved it. And then I have created my humble homestead because it's a work in progress I can add on in future readathons. So I went with the humble homestead, and for that I read The Exile, or reread The Exile by Ryan Cahill, which is book 2.5 in the Bound and the Broken series. Now, I still need to read not only for Around the Disc in 800, but also for the Library of Dragons, books 34 and 35, 35 and 36, I believe. 35 and 36 in the Discworld series, and that's Wintersmith, which is also the third book in the Tiffany Aching series, and then Making Money by Terry Pratchett. So I'm looking forward to starting both of those. And I think that's it. I think that's all I still need to read. So we're getting close. I'm actually doing pretty good, especially since we're just a week and a half, almost 2 weeks into June, if I can remember the month that we're in. But now that I have my library books in, I can do a little book stack for you so you can see some of the chunky books I'm reading this month or have already read. So let's see. I'm not going to include the books that I read in May, even though they counted for the readathon, just because. See if I can get these in here in some kind of order so they don't all fall over on me. Okay, here we go. Plus I have a couple of just audiobooks, and then of course I have a few books on my Kindle, so I will just leave that one right on top. Okay, so heavy. So I don't have a ton of books on my list, but I do have a lot of chunky books on my list. The books I still need to read. So these are all the ones that I have physically. Let's go ahead and take off some of the ones I have already read and see if that helps make it seem a little more doable. Well, I guess that didn't really help much. Most of the ones I've already read have been on audiobook or ebook. So I got to take off 2 books, but it is not quite as heavy, a little doable, more doable. So that's all the books I still need to read for the rest of the month. So a week or 2 ago, I found out that I won one of the Goodreads giveaways, and this is the second time I've won, which is pretty cool. The first time was a few years ago, and it was Boundless Leadership. And I did read it, and I actually tabbed this one, which was kind of fun. And this one is Joe Loizo and Elzar Aslan. And it was pretty good. There's a lot of talk about meditation and some other things like that in here, and I did really enjoy that. But this time, I won the print book of The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, for the second book in the Crowns of Nyaxia series by Carissa Broadbent. Well, I haven't read the first book in the series yet, and I don't own the first book in the series yet. So I put it on hold at my library thinking, oh, it's going to be a month probably before the book comes in. So I have time to hopefully read it, maybe get it on my July TBR. And so I put it on hold at the library and figured, oh yeah, I'm going to be like way down the waiting list. I went to the library today to return a couple of my library books, and this was waiting for me. So The Serpent and the Wings of Night, which is the first book, so I need to read this one before, of course, I can read the second book in the series. And it's not on my TBR, and we'll see if I can get to it, but I do have it for 3 weeks, and I am hoping that I can get to it. Most of my books this month are on audiobooks, So this one I could read physically, and I should have time to get through it. It's not super chunky. It's only 461 pages, and that's part of the glossary. So the actual book ends at 452, but the print is super tiny. Like, look how tiny that print is. But I should get through it. I will be starting this week and slowly making my way through when I have moments, maybe while I'm watching TV at night. I'll kind of have that on in the background and read through this one. So I'm hoping I can get this one finished before I get the second one in the mail. So if you happen to get a chance to take part in like a little pub crawl or something like that in your community, some kind of scavenger hunt thing, I would recommend it. Get a couple friends together and you may discover some fun things in your town that you didn't know was there beforehand. So how's your month going so far? Is there something fun taking place in your town that is maybe unique to you, or something you've never participated in before that you're going to be trying out this summer? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to find out what's going on in your town. I don't think we have too many other plans for June. Most of our stuff is kind of gearing towards July. We have some family coming to visit towards the end of July, and of course the amazing monsoon season. Some of my favorite things. I love thunderstorms. I love monsoon season. It is amazing. It starts to get super hot and it starts to get super humid, and then all of a sudden this storm just comes in and it just like rages for like half an hour. If you're lucky, maybe it's here for about an hour, and then it goes away and everything just looks so fresh and clean, and the air is so crisp, and it has cooled off. Usually cools off like 10, sometimes 15 degrees, and it's just beautiful. And I love monsoon season. What is your favorite thing about summer? Do you like sipping some ice cold lemonade or iced tea on the porch? Do you like being able to go out and do some water games, hang out in the pool, time with friends? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for joining me, and please like, comment, and subscribe if you want it, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other videos from me, like my May wrap-up that is coming up, as well as my bullet journal and reading journal setups for July. And if you made it this far, do they have an emoji for a shot glass or a keg? If so, leave that down in the comments to let me know that you were here. If not, maybe it's something that was black, because we were on Team Black. And until next time, keep reading. Bye!